In the Parsha of this week, Parshas Re'eh, after Shishi, that is now in chapter 15, the Torah discusses a number of mitzvahs referring to kindness, goodness, charitable, how we will have to be to those who are unfortunately less fortunate. A particular mitzvah, which is interesting, is the mitzvah is how you have to behave, what are your responsibilities towards your slave, if you have a Jewish slave, male or female. Now we have to understand that slavery, it means over here basically a full-time laborer that for a fee sells him or herself to work for you to provide for the necessities. Unfortunately, it came to such a state that he can't just get paid for another job only as a slave. Or could be in case a person who is indebted, stole, and he can't pay back, so the courts will sell him into slavery, and the money that he will earn after having provided everything for his family needs will go to pay back the debt. And the Torah says the maximum time a person could be in this kind of a state of, again, avdus, slavery, can be no more than 6 years, because on the 7th year, ubashona shvis, on the 7th year, that doesn't mean the 7th year since he sold himself, but on the cycle of the sabbatical year, on the sabbatical year, tishalchenu chafshi mimach, you must let him go free. And then the Torah says the following: once you let him go free, you're not finished yet. You still have some responsibilities. You can't let him go empty-handed. Do not send him away empty-handed. Now what is it that you need to give him? We're not talking of giving a diploma that he's a good laborer, does a good work, a reference. No, you have to give him actual help. How so? Hanek tanik loi. You should give him gifts, many gifts. Of what? Mitzoincha, from your flock. Migarnecha, some grain from your threshing floor. Umiyikvecha, some wine from your vat. Asher berachacha Hashem Elokecha, that God has blessed you, you're more fortunate, titen loy, you should give him. And the Torah says, and why? Because v'zocharta, you should remember, ki eved yisa beretz Mitzrayim, you were a slave in Egypt. Vayivdecha Hashem Elokecha, and God has freed you, God has redeemed you. Al kain, and therefore anoichi mitzavcha es hadover hazeh hayoim, and therefore God says, for you to remember that you were a slave, remember the feeling? Wasn't a pleasant one. But remember when I freed you, I have given you many gifts. So too you should behave with a brother of yours who is unfortunately less fortunate than you are. Reb Leivik, that is the Rebbe's father, points out something very interesting. God says you should give him many gifts, but then he points out, singles out, mitzoincha, from your flock, migarnecha, some grain from your threshing floor, umiyikvecha, some wine. And then he says that God has blessed you. In other words, give him other things too. Why these specific 3 items? Tzoincha, some sheep, some flour, and some wine. And then he says, remember when you came out of Egypt. Says Reb Leivik, how do we celebrate Pesach? The Seder of Pesach, what do we have there? When we came out of Egypt, first thing we did was, we had to bring the Korban Pesach. Before we came out of Egypt, I should say, we had to bring the Paschal Lamb. And then every Pesach, we have the Korban Pesach, the Paschal Lamb. Tzoincha. We eat matzah. The matzah, which is the grain. And then at the Seder we drink 4 cups of wine. Umiyikvecha, and from your wine. Says the Torah, I want this individual to experience your experience of freedom. Those 3 items, the Korban Pesach, the matzah that we eat, is because we had no time to prepare anything else. This represents the coming out of Egypt. And the 4 cups of wine, which are the 4 expressions of redemption. I want him to feel that too and to realize that he's a free person. And therefore, says Reb Leivik, we're not giving him a morer. We're not going to give him any bitter herbs. Although this is part of the Pesach experience, no, because the morer represents the bitterness. We do not want to remind him that he was a slave. We want to focus on him that he is actually free. And this is why the Torah says, be sensitive to the other one. Always emphasize that aspect of freedom. What we are yearning for, where we're trying to reach for. Live it, symbolize it, under any circumstances. Even when you're sending away your slave, tell him, no, it is all about freedom that we have to appreciate and go towards. Rebbeinu Shalom, no, we want our freedom now.